Fellow Ghanaians, good morning. There's something very strange happening in this country, something that challenges every basic economic principle that those of us who learned economics were taught. Something that makes you wonder whether this country operates on a different planet with its own laws of gravity, its own logic of demand and supply, its own mysterious version of economic that makes it makes sense nowhere else but only in Ghana.
Mini mama na wasi na mema wakwa aba na mefa saa kwan sonku we so ema wo afihia pa yeda nyankopon wasi sa ma afe no akwa apro na san aba betwe na san ye ho edi yen akwakwohye 2026 mu yemfa aseda eni ayeye ema onyankopon because waye bi ama mene wo ye mienu afi yenko yen sam no eso ye nua be ma bi a ono so ye adwuma e wo dwai prime baba bedi nkobo bi e dia fa his excellency John Dramani Mahama na mamuo no eho wo se NDC fo e prokoro da dwom bi ena moye yana because odwen ho a onti ase elewen we say accounting for because inflation e wo form ena wo hwe exchange rate so a e wo form enti se anka wo hwe normally sa indicators yi aba for media wo sanka nyoma bo etimi eco form se ne be ya Ghanaians ye ho ebetumi ahenhan yen nanso wo kom mountain so na se wo ko bisa nyoma bo a it's never going down na adenti ena wo se etimi ebasa nti wono so wakire na dwen de all kano nokore ana se enye nokore mama ne mienu ye hwe video no enwie na se wo wie a na watimi akọ comment section ho na watwere wadwen e de egu ho se de all kano nokore ana se ye propaganda bi na wo ye na ansa na ye behwe ye brother the video no menua ye brother bi so ba be di nkomo e de afa honorable Sammy Gyamfi ene atoforsen ho wo se his excellency John Dramani Mahama oba ba mu no appointment mienu a waye a Ghana for airborne munsem edi amano eye honorable Sammy Gyamfi gold board CEO and finance minister Kwaku Asante adwuma asankrofo mienu we airborne say NDC appointees ne nyina etese omo anka Ghana ebetumi afa ne ntomapa afra even before say his excellency John Dramani Mahama ne tenwa no ebekọ awiye no ye hwe say video no emra na bibia ha me de brother Kwaku Asante ne video de no so atwa so amana hwe video no nyina ewia go to the comment section na chire wadwen unya and subscribe here to this amazing channel na message say obema me Xmas gift na wo de subscribe like video we so na comment biala wo so just go to the comment section we so share ma woni bi no so onya bi ehwe me da wase yenti ye brother na wo kan Sammy Gyamfi ne kills la to force one sem no emra ye wia me Kwaku Asante dia no so ebeto so e dia ma me da wase ehwe video no emra
fantastic appointees amani je no pa under Mahama's second term regime we mu eye Sammy Gyamfi very serious about office no baby a de ama no and how we see we pretty any revenue generating my mind. I'm very happy about this man's Sammy Gyamfi Abantiwe. He's doing marvelous at the gold board. Ade ba akokro de be kan woni say ye gold no ye be refine ne yetimi ajiweris ni ade ne asa nso kura say nya musika asa ka ho de abo oman no. And these things have all come to support the economy. Sammy Gyamfi koso ne boy adwuma sa yire wo ho. Or you are one of enkrofo a we are fantastic. Appointee a ye hihye ayaba me bodini edikan say wa boy adwuma just within 1 year. And of course, Kwaku Asante the finance minister. Finance minister Timothy Dwem. And I'm not surprised here who we know. Because ono ne Timothy Dwem finance minister esi Dwem ne adwadifo Marco din kobo. Ken oforiata the Bible be hye the bottom. No akura bag. Age budget yaso. But this finance minister kofem no woni adwadifo na kodi din kobo na wode abehye the budget mu e de di budget no hudwuma. Eno na me yehu de yehu. Sa two appointees we Mahama's first term in the second term first year me bo ma basopa they've done marvelously well and they deserve to be commended. Kwaku Asante on ni nam dwemhwe no woni adwadifo ma na din komo and woman bo to say mudwade ni kosen ye to ade ye yesi or gather all these things, but then kenoforiata be white esoro ni fam nyina as you be wiase na Ghana mu nyina ye tuntum obesha white esoro ni fam nyina o a edim se Ghana be ye han ebe wiase na enoma bo no manti Ghana nyina ye sun Brunya nyina ye basa. But kudos to these appointees. They've done marvelously well and a great job indeed. Ama Christmas no, me real krum no mani age. How people were happy. Omo trade, omo turn no money adena. Utumi say enwoma kɔ n'anim. But fast forward.
Fellow Ghanaians, good morning. There's something very strange happening in this country, something that challenges every basic economic principle that those of us who learned economics were taught. Something that makes you wonder whether this country operates on a different planet with its own laws of gravity, its own logic of demand and supply, its own mysterious version of economic that makes it makes sense nowhere else but only in Ghana. Because inflation has fallen for the 11th straight month. Just last week, the Ghana Statistical Service told us that inflation had landed at 6.3% in November, last month I should say. A figure that we have not seen before in years. A figure that ordinarily should bring relief, stability, and even a little joy. And yet, when you step into the real world, Makola, Kaneshi, Kumasi Central Market, Abosio Kai, the spare parts lanes, into the provision shops that keeps the average household alive, into the corners where the real Ghanaian economy lives, you will realize that nothing, absolutely nothing, reflects the so-called easing of inflation that we've been told. Because what we have, fellow Ghanaians, is an absurdity, a contradiction, a national puzzle that defies the textbooks. The cedi has been strengthening for months. Yes, strengthening convincingly, consistently, and publicly. Inflation is falling month after month. Fuel prices have been stabilized. In fact, we've reduced it from almost 16, 17 to what we have now. Shipping cost is going down. And yet the prices of goods in Ghana move in only one direction, up, and further up. As if it's been possessed by some spiritual commandment that says the cedi must only go up. And again, no matter what happens to the fundamentals, it seems it doesn't matter. You would think that with the cedi performing well, imported goods would at least hold the prices, if not decline. But go through Abosio Kai and ask for brake parts, shock absorbers, clutches, alternators, radiators, or even the small electrical components that people buy every day. And the traders will tell you, without blinking, that the price has gone up again, sometimes by 10%, sometimes 20%, and a lot more. It is all as though that we are following a private inflation calendar that is known only to those traders. Go to Kumasi Magazine and ask the artisans why the cost of services has gone up. And it will point to you too vaguely a system, the amorphous, all-purpose explanation for every economic anomaly. And then go to Makola, even for the most basic household items, rice, sugar, cooking oil, tin tomatoes, gari, sardines. And you find that even though inflation is supposedly falling, the prices are dancing upwards, as if in defense or in defiance of logic. And this, fellow Ghanaians, is where the problem is. Our economic paradigm has become completely detached from the rules of economics, detached to the extent of absurdity, detached to the point where you begin to question whether the problem is economics or human behavior. Whether the system is broken or the conscience of the market is that which is rather broken. Because what we are experiencing is not inflation. It is not exchange rate fallout. It is not imported misfortune. It is profiteering, plain and simple. It is a deliberate refusal by some traders and suppliers to adjust their prices downwards even when the conditions that justify the earlier increases are no longer existent. Nobody is saying that traders must operate at a loss. We don't expect spare part dealers to collapse their businesses for charity's sake. And nobody expects a market woman to cut her margins in half. But what we cannot accept is a system where prices only rise and never fall, where every trader behaves like an island, where every shop owner creates their own inflation rate, where every increase is justified, but the decrease is resisted, where the consumer is treated as captive, who must simply accept whatever price is quoted because a system, no. This cannot continue, because what is the point of a strengthening cedi if it brings no relief to the citizens? What is the point of falling inflation if the average household still cannot feel it? What is the point of macroeconomic stability if it never translates into microeconomic sanity? Fellow Ghanaians, something must give, something must change. Something must shift, and it must shift now. We cannot build a fair society where consumers are always at the mercy of unregulated pricing behaviors that have no relationship with cost structures. We cannot claim to be building a stable economy when the lived experience of the citizens is economic turbulence day after day. And we cannot continue to watch on as traders who benefit from the weaker city or actually the stronger city refuse to pass on the benefit to the consumer. The truth is the market must also do right by the people. You cannot keep reaping windfalls when things are difficult, only to keep the same windfalls when things get better. You cannot take advantage of every exchange rate spike, only to ignore every exchange rate gain. You cannot base prices on the dollar when the dollar rises, but then suddenly forget about that when the dollar is falling. This behavior destroys confidence, it destroys fairness, and destroys the very social contract that keeps markets functioning. Fellow Ghanaians, the real economy is not a spreadsheet in Accra. It is the daily hustle of ordinary people trying to survive. The falling inflation figures mean nothing if a mother still has to cut down meals because food is too expensive. They mean nothing if a taxi driver cannot afford spare parts for his vehicle. They mean nothing if a teacher's salary is wiped out halfway through the month. They mean nothing if the shopkeeper keeps increasing prices because she assumes everyone else will do the same. Yes, the government must continue stabilizing the fundamentals, but traders, wholesalers, importers, and distributors must also look inward and act with fairness. A market without conscience becomes exploitation, and a market without responsibility becomes oppression. A market without empathy becomes a danger to the society it is meant to serve. Fellow Ghanaians, we cannot keep living in an economy where prices rise like escalators and then fall like feathers. We cannot continue accepting that the consumer must suffer endlessly while others profit endlessly. We cannot keep normalizing a marketplace that behaves like a lawless jungle in which those with the power pricing down those without alternatives. No economy can thrive on that path. It is time for traders to be fair. It is time for regulators to be active. And it's time for the government to ensure transparency. It is time for consumers to speak up. Because if inflation is falling and the city is rising and prices are still going up, then something is fundamentally wrong. It is not economics. It is behavior of those who are serving the people. Good morning, fellow Ghanaians.
Yes, yakako he video naba na de meka e dia fa Samija Mfini honorable ato Forson ensam no ho ene say yes yesi nipa oyade a ose ayeyi sene omo eye bone a ye beka no so omo ye papa. That is the same way I was say to me eka e wo ye platform yi eso nti ye be sere Samija Mfini ene ato Forson the way Ghana for ye bo yensem e dia ma omo no omo koso na omo nya dwumaden emfa mua oman Ghana na yenim say daachi the nation will pay them back and I say Yakupon kra ebeshila omo and I brother is watching na dwede o kan no baby no kre because the inflation eba fomu a anka yenum say dwuma bo no the way anka e kwo hyew no ke bia eso ebeti nanso no upie emonten so a nyema binom ebuo ewosoro ebinum so ebuo abafom utimi enka se ni na e na ekosoro daabi eno no de obi bia obeka sa asem no na kire se onye no kwarefo yes bebre na abo abafom ena bi nso still na esoro ena eko ena wo hwe CD2 dollar exchange rate nso a aye very stable eno no de ebebo at forcing na baso aye ade nti ebesere se onkoso na onye sa na Samija Mfini so de oye no eye obwa ama oman Ghana enya sika na ide ye mpumpuduma nti ye beda won ase so omonkoso embo adwumade nti binua also comment bia la won just go to the comment section churo ni na fa go ho ema me na me kan na me yia no e dia ma onu obi enya adwua meserew enye atemdidie. Yes, let us learn how to share our opinions without insulting others, and I know you are going to do better. Meda wasi so wati asem making afi ma memfa wo esi na ansa na yebekọ no unya subscribe ya best say subscribe to this amazing channel, like a video we so na comment bia la won just go to the comment section na twere wa hwe na fogo emma me share ma wonu abi so na wonya bi ewe ma meda wasi me ne wo ebisi bim sisi e makra. Bye bye.